I feel like this is a metaphor. Japan makes something beautiful and unique and interesting, and dare I say, great for the price. And then America comes and barfs out their own version that's nowhere near as impressive, costs just as much, if not more, and just looks a little bit too bloated for what it is. This one's kind of interesting. Today we're comparing two versions of the Final Wars Godzilla design. One put out by the Bandai Movie Monster series, which is that wonderful vinyl series from Japan that I've been enamored with recently. And that one's from Playmates. That came out in 2019, 2020, in that area, where Playmates was essentially just taking all the molds from Bandai and making larger but less detailed, less painted versions of all of them. For some characters, it was actually rather nice. Gorosaurus, King Caesar, and some were perfectly passable, like Jet Jaguar, Mechagodzilla, and some were just outright bad. I'm trying to figure out where this Godzilla hangs out, because it's not fair. I'm comparing him to this beautiful, beautiful guy right here. Let's get a couple of things out of the way right now. One, I know this is somewhat controversial to say, especially with Godzilla purists from what I understand. I quite like Final Wars. I think it's one of my favorite Godzilla movies. I think other than GMK, it might be my favorite Millennium movie. That's not fair. I really like both the Kiryu movies. The point is, I quite like it. I think it's a good turn your brain off Godzilla action movie in which you got to see a lot of the old monsters come back for one last hurrah. It's a good send-off to Godzilla. And because of that, I quite like the design. He's very different compared to most Godzillas. He's much thinner, he has a longer tail, he has lighter hips, he's a little bit more muscular looking. They made a Godzilla that was a little bit more agile and swift. And I feel like one of these toys shows that off pretty well. One of these toys shows that off pretty well. Man, if the Godzilla purists were mad about my Final Wars take, they're gonna kill me when I do this. So, this is technically an unboxing. I guess I'm going to do this for every single one of these vinyls I get when I review them. I'm just going to snip them right here on screen. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to. My bad. I buy these things because I think they look cool, and I don't like having the big piece of cardboard there to remind me that this is a toy, because without it, it's just a really nice representation of the costume. And I love this look for Godzilla. So the dorsal plates are very small. Compared to many Godzillas, like these are just puny. But again, that was to make the costume smaller and easier to maneuver. The big thing with this Godzilla was they were trying to streamline him for action scenes. And yet there's still so much detail in this figure. So much great surface detail throughout the entire body, including here around the neck and chest. Articulation's decent for one of these. You got swivels at the arms, swivels at the hips. Nothing in the tail, but the tail is massive, just absolutely ginormous. I also love the detail of how the paint slowly comes in onto the dorsal plates. And up here in the head, what a wonderful Godzilla head. The teeth individually painted, the purple tongue. And my favorite thing about this Godzilla is he doesn't have whites around his eyes. And that was by intention. The director thought that if he had whites around his eyes, he would look human. By removing it, he looks like something beyond us. Something of nature. Something we can't comprehend. It's a good, solid visual storytelling idea. And I think it does make this Godzilla seem a lot more intimidating and a lot more intelligent than a lot of versions of Godzilla. Alongside that, I'm just happy with this. It's a good figure. Soft vinyl, so you can squeeze him. He's a little bit like a dog toy. A little bit like a bath toy. But he's also massive. He is nearly 6 inches tall, and he is nearly 9 inches long from snout to tail. He is a big old boy, and you get him for $20. For my Transformers regulars, here he is alongside a Core Class Shockwave and a Deluxe Class Sideswipe. Keep in mind, Sideswipe's $25. He's smaller, has less surface detail, less sculpted detail. He of course transforms. I still think he's worth the money too. But I think that this is amazing that Bandai gives you just a massive hunk of plastic, a very well painted and well sculpted hunk of plastic on top of that. And it's for $20. That's not that much money for today's toys. Insane, because I remember when I was a kid, $20 was like one of the more expensive things you could buy at a store, but now that's almost like chump change. And this Godzilla, this Godzilla's rocking it. And then there's, the other one. You want to know something, though? Playmates and these versions of the Bandai molds, This is what got me into Godzilla at all back in 2019. This and King of the Monsters. And I still have memories of that original collection I had. Space Godzilla, King Caesar, Mecha Godzilla, this Godzilla, Millennium Godzilla, Mothra. I regret selling them. I want to get them back because I love them. I still do. But yeah, they don't hold a candle to the originals. Most of them don't anyway. On the dorsal plates, you can see the tail is so much smaller. Like, the wonderful thing about the Final Wars Godzilla was that massive tail that was always held aloft. Here, it's so puny and so almost pathetic. The proportions are way off. He's a bit chunkier than he should be. The dorsal fins are way too big. The paint's nowhere near as interesting. The sculpting's a lot... The sculpting's still nice. It is. It's still nice, but it's nowhere near as nice or as intricate as the Bandai version. And up here, you'd think you can get a lot of good articulation. Yeah, you can somewhat. You got swivel in the head, swivel in the shoulders, swivel in the hips. But even with that, this guy never looks all that impressive. He looks like a really good bootleg Godzilla. And I guess in a lot of ways, he kind of is a really good bootleg Godzilla. Only thing is, this was a bootleg made by Playmates. I do like this head sculpt, though. It's nowhere near as interesting, and they didn't paint the individual teeth, but at least it is discernibly Godzilla, and the eyes are okay. Not as good as the Bandai, but it's fine. Having this Godzilla makes me happy, but I would never say that he is as good, or even approaching as good, as the Bandai original. It's a tale of two Godzillas. This one was trying to make us ready to have more Godzilla stuff on store shelves. Think about this right now, right? You go into a Target or a Walmart anywhere in the country, there's Super 7 Godzilla stuff, Playmates Godzilla stuff, NECA still puts some stuff out there. There's so much Godzilla that you can buy at general retail right now. Godzilla's place in the pop culture, at least here in the States, has never been better than what it is right now. So yeah, it's not as good as this one, but they weren't going to send this guy out to stores. They just wouldn't have, because he's a little bit too detailed, he's a little too sharp, he's a little too expensive. He was 20, he's 10. He's larger, kids love big toys. That's the reason why I was buying these guys back in 2019, 2020, that area. Was just because, yeah, it was cool to have these characters. It was cool to have such a big toy. That's a big draw, is just how massive these toys were. And for that, you kind of have to respect what Playmates was doing. I don't think we get to a point where we're having as many Godzilla toys, especially not imported Godzilla toys, become so readily available without this. This was kind of the start of it all. Obviously, I'm only going to recommend the Bandai Godzilla. I think he's a wonderful Final Wars Godzilla. He's awesome. He's everything you'd want. He looks just like he does in the movie. I am still happy that I have this Playmates knockoff one, though, because he is still fun, and he is still good. He's just different. This is like a baby's first Godzilla, and this is what you get later on when you want the screen accuracy, and you want the sculpting, and you want the painting, and you want it to be perfect. I like these two together. They make for a good pair. And here are all my Bandai Movie Monster Series adjacent figures. The Mechagodzilla is a little bit of a pretender, but he's here too. And normally I would show you the full collection, but truth be told, it's getting so big now that I can't put them all together. So, going on, I'm going to put all the Playmates toys together at the end of their videos. I'm going to put all the Bandai toys together at the end of their videos, and I'll put the Super 7 ones with just whoever, but always with each other at the very least. I'm happy with this growing collection of the Bandai Monster Movie Series guys. And I'm just looking down at my box. I have Kiryu, I got Agriras, I got Destroya and Ghidorah and Biolante, Burning Godzilla. There's a lot more we're going to have to cover, and I am so ready for it.